I can tell you right now, our teachers in West Bend don't like the way they're being evaluated. And I think tying pay to performance is what's causing some of our teachers to leave for other districts. I think we can look to surrounding districts that are stealing some of our teachers to figure out what they're doing and why our teachers are leaving to go to those places. We've sat down with a high-level administrator in Slinger, and instead of using Galileo testing as a measure of evaluating teachers, they have common assessment tests that the teachers write that corresponds to the curriculum that the teachers are teaching, and they're using that just simply as a data point to measure teacher performance. It's not necessarily tied to pay because you've got other things like observations in the classroom. You've got, quite frankly, some teacher tenure that plays a role in that as well. So I think we need to give our teachers a lot more credit in letting them come together as a biology department or English department and write a common assessment instead of using a Galileo test that we pay tens of thousands of dollars for every year that they have no input into.
I have done some research on Galileo as well. I have found that in some instances the teachers can also go through and submit questions and get them into their tests as well. I don't believe we need to 100% tie all teacher evaluations or paid performance on Galileo. I believe we need to have some sort of a standard out there. Galileo is just one thing. Maybe we need to look into another assessment program or something like that and figure out other ways besides the in-classroom evals and everything else, and try to check with the parents and survey as much as we can as well to also base that with the teacher-based pay performance.
I think it's important to look at a well-rounded way to evaluate teachers. I don't believe that teachers should be evaluated on one particular test or two particular tests that students take. I think it needs to be well-rounded as far as observations. There is obviously grading and looking at how their students are doing on particular tests or particular programs or curriculum pieces, so I think that's important. I also think it's important to not look at a teacher just on a 1 quarter or 1 semester basis. You need to be looking at what they're doing for the entire year. If it's a new teacher, you need to look at some tenure issues as well, and obviously there's steps in all markets that we all take when we're fresh, new to the market versus when we've been involved for 10 or 15 years. So I think it needs to be a well-rounded approach, not relying on one particular test.
Could you repeat the question real quick with this?
Sure. What do you believe is the proper way to evaluate teachers' performance? Please share your opinion on competency-based versus tenure-based
Okay,
pay.
thank you. No, I agree with what Nancy said. It has to be well-rounded. I think that research has shown that that basing a teacher's performance solely on test grades doesn't work. It's one thing that we're looking at now in the district is Superintendent Olson is setting up committees to take a look at our teacher pay structure and how they receive raises. And hopefully we're going to get input from all the community and find a system that works for all of our teachers and our administration.
I'm presently involved in a course at UWM, and my wonderful professor is sitting in the audience here. She can raise her hand if she wants to, but it's interesting because the subject we're talking about now, compensation and payment, is what we were talking about in school today. And as we talked about it, I realized how many facets of it there are. It's not a simple thing you can answer, because to pay somebody for competency depends on who's paying them, how they look at them. So there's I think there's a lot more things that have to be done before I can respond. I have a lot more things that I have to learn before I can respond to this question adequately, but it is an important question, and I'll learn more as my good teacher teaches me this semester.
It's an interesting question, competency versus tenure-based, especially since there are some really excited, energetic young teachers that maybe aren't as competent as older tenured teachers. But really, I don't like to look at those measurements. I'd rather have a standard set, and then no matter how long you've been there, whether you're new or older, you have a chance to meet those standards. And then if you don't, then you have an opportunity, sort of improvement plan where you can get some help. But if you're already meeting standards, then you shouldn't be necessarily in a coaching program unless you want it. I think it's important to let our teachers who have great reputations teach. We need to get out of their way. But at the same time, if we have other teachers that want help or have been proven to need help,